One of the things that I think is really interesting is that a lot of Republican politicians have this really, I think, flawed framing about immigrants. But it's not just that they have that framing or that we disagree, but it's that they assume that everybody else secretly agrees with them. It's like they can't conceive of a world or a community where people actually understand that immigrants and refugees are an enormous blessing and also have understood US history, and that immigrants and refugees are one of the only reasons why economically, demographically, and socially the United States even is in any way as prosperous or accomplished on the broad sense. There's still distribution issues, but that the United States is as wealthy as it is because of immigrants. And if we didn't have them, we would be in big trouble. And that includes undocumented immigrants, by the way. I'm talking about all immigrants. First of all, this idea of documented, undocumented, and just come legally and not. When people tell these fond stories about their grandparents, great-grandparents, most of them were undocumented, or by today's standards would be absolutely undocumented. Some of them, how many stories people are like, oh, my name is this because it was secretly that, because my great-grandfather or my grandfather wrote their name down funny, or the person processing them just wrote their name down in a book. That would be undocumented today, sir. But aside from that, I want to tell you a story about my community, because New York 14th Congressional District is nearly 50% immigrant. We speak over 100 languages. We have 2 public hospitals, treat everyone regardless of ability to pay, and we have enough left over to help Florida, because New York is a net tax exporter to the rest of the country, and Florida is a net tax taker. So while Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott, they want to act like they're all economically savvy, DeSantis can't even produce an economy enough that actually helps contribute to the United States overall, and we're happy to help. But a big reason we're able to, why? Because of immigrants. Documented, undocumented, everything. Sure, many immigrants come here with very little, but all of us at every single point in our life come to a point where we are at our lowest. But when we do rise up from that point, we have so much to offer our society. And the only reason that the United States doesn't have the same economic and demographic challenges that countries like Japan or South Korea currently have is because of our immigrant neighbors and brothers and sisters. Because you take a look at it, and it's not just Japan and South Korea, but there are quite a few countries that are really struggling because young people, because under the burdens of capitalism and living under a society that's increasingly concentrating wealth among the rich, we're not having kids, or we're not having kids at the same rate. And we actually need immigrant populations to help balance things out. We can't continue to fund Social Security, Medicare, all of this stuff without immigrants. And it's always been that way. Don't act like this is a new trend or anything like that. The United States has always relied on an immigrant population to be economically and socially prosperous. So just because your great-great-grandpa was able to come into the United States on a Post-it note doesn't mean that he's any better than the people that are arriving at Martha's Vineyard today. Doesn't mean that he's any better, or that your family, or that anybody's ancestors are any more documented or legitimate than the people coming in from Honduras, from Bangladesh, from anywhere else. This is who we've always been. And just because the melanin has changed doesn't mean the people and the institutions are any different. They are a blessing to us. They bring abundance. And maybe if we learn that, Florida would be able to contribute to the United States in terms of their taxes and take a lesson from New York. So there you go. Someone asks, can I elaborate a little bit more on tax distribution in the U.S.? Are there other states similar to New York and Florida? Yes, I can. Here's a chart. I first got this chart from the National Academy of Public Administration. They rely on Rockefeller Institute data, but here it is. I can try to link it. The more orange the state, the more they contribute to the United States in tax contributions than they take. So you see right up here, and then the more blue the state, blue states receive more in this chart than they give in tax dollars. So if you look at the orange states, how interesting. Most of them are pretty progressive. And all of these Republicans that talk about bootstrapping and not relying on other people and don't be a taker and blah, 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 look at that.